Hi guys, got a few things to show. A little story about 3 years ago. It was. There's a guy that comes into the shop, and we quite often speak about music. And we were speaking about Can, and I said they were a band that I'd always struggled with. He really likes them. But I thought he might like this, so I lent him my Silver Apple CD, and subsequently didn't forget about it, but didn't mention it, and presumed he had forgotten about it. And then a couple of weeks ago, he was back in the shop, and he said, "Must apologise, but I found your CD, but also I've brought you in some records to listen to, because we'd been speaking about various bands." So he lent me half a dozen or so albums that I hadn't heard that he thought I'd like. So they're the ones I'm going to show. Some really, really good stuff, quite obscure things, a lot of them that I hadn't heard of before. First one is this album by Glenn Phillips called Lost at Sea. And this is a great kind of lo-fi. He's a kind of really good guitarist. If you imagine, I don't want to kind of compare him to Santana, but it's got that kind of Santana enough sound to it. But if you imagine Santana in his own bedroom, just recording music on a stereo himself, it's very lo-fi, and it is on the Caroline label, which is a derivative of Virgin. But that's a great album, really good. This next one I wasn't quite so keen on. It's by Joe O'Donnell, and it's called Godal's Vision. It's quite interesting though, because it's got Rory Gallagher on it, doing a lot of the kind of guitar work. Joe O'Donnell himself plays violin and viola, I think. This is on Polydor. But again, it's a similar kind of feeling. It's quite proggy folk, but with violins as opposed to guitar being the main instrument. So it's interesting, but I wasn't so keen on it. He lent me this one by Bo Hansen. I know Derek's always shown Lord of the Rings and says it's one of his favourites, and I listened to this and I hadn't heard any Bo Hansen before, and this is really good. It's a really good album. He's obviously a great keyboardist, but the last track on this just kind of spoilt it for me, and if they hadn't put that track on, for me this would be even better. This was on the famous Charisma label as well. But yeah, some of these I'm definitely going to have to try and track down my own copies, or possibly just keep these until he forgets. But I don't know. He lent this. We'd been speaking about Marquee Moon, and I said I'd never actually heard Adventure because I was waiting to find a copy. But again, this is really good. I don't think it's as good as Marquee Moon. It's certainly cheerier. If you imagine Marquee Moon is quite a gloomy album, this is very similar but on the cheerier side. Seems a much more uplifting, maybe not uplifting, but certainly happier album. And they look like they're in a better place on this than they do on the cover of the other one. This album here, by, I'm not going to bother trying to pronounce these guys. But I think they're the two main guys out of Can, or two of the main guys out of Can, in Jah Wobble. And this is their album called Full Circle. This is a very mixed bag. When it works really well. But then a lot of the time it seems kind of jarring. Jah Wobble's bass against these guys' drums and stuff. Sometimes it doesn't quite mix that well. But when it does work, it is very good. So yep, so that was another one. I don't know whether I'd bother tracking down a copy of that for myself, but I'm glad I heard it. He also lent me Steve Hillage's Rainbow Dome Music. I already had a copy of this, but Steve Hillage, so it's going to be pretty good. He lent me Tangerine Dream, The Sorcerer. We'd been speaking about the film The Sorcerer. It's a film I'd really like to see, actually, and the original film. I can't remember what the French version was called. I want to say Paths of Glory, but that's not right. But yeah, this is good. You can definitely kind of tell it's a soundtrack, but is good. But again, it's Tangerine Dream, so it's probably going to be good. This one, Neil Ardley. This is, I would say, similar lines to maybe Mike Oldfield. It's got that kind of sound to it. It's kind of tubular bells. In fact, I think there were some parts of it that were very much like tubular bells. But this is Neil Ardley, and John Martin features quite a lot on this as well, playing guitar. But this is good. I really enjoyed this album. It's called Harmony of Spheres. This is on Decca. But yeah, this is a good album. Definitely recommend this one. And finally, the last album is this one, which is Some Deaths Take Forever, by Bernard Sajner, I presume it's pronounced, who I think is seen as kind of the French Brian Eno. Kind of even looks a bit Brian Eno-esque in there. But this is a kind of concept album dedicated to Amnesty International, and it is about basically two people on death row, as far as I can remember. One side of it is a guy that's on death row that ends up being executed. So it's a kind of build up towards that and his execution at the end. And the B side of it is somebody who isn't on death row, but has been given, I think, a life sentence, and it has the hope of one day being set free. It's quite an interesting album. The two sides are definitely do work quite well with the story, so you can tell, you know, the gloom and the kind of desperation on the first side compared with the hope on stuff on the second side. But this is a good album. Definitely worth trying to track down. So yeah, so those are the albums that he's lent me. I'm really pleased. Some great stuff. So yeah, I'd love to hear your comments. I might actually send this video to a few people, because there's a few people I like. I think Fred might like a lot of these things and might be able to fill me in some information. Again, Derek, maybe Chris4127 Basket as well. He's probably into this kind of thing, so I might actually send this around to a few people, which is something I haven't done. I don't really like to push my videos, but yeah, I think there's some things here that are interesting enough. I would like to hear some particular people's views on them. Yes, that's it. It's a pretty horrid day here, so thanks for watching. And I'm going to go back to having my cup of tea. So, bye for now.